Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. I am truly excited to welcome you all. I am Saloni Gupta, representing Proteogenics Life Science Private Limited. This webinar is on Fostak, which is an eminent product of Fujifilm Vaco Pure Chemical Corporation, and we Proteogenics are commercial and technical partners of this product with Vaco. So whether you are working on cell signaling, drug development, or kinase activity profiling, understanding phosphorylation is the key. And traditional STS page doesn't give us the full picture, and that is where the Fostak makes a real difference. So my goal today is not only to help you understand the principle and workflow of the Fostak technology, but also help you equip with the practical knowledge on optimization, troubleshooting, and real-world applications. So I hope you are all ready. Before we begin, I'll just quickly give you a look at today's agenda. First, we will start with an overview on post-translation modification, focusing on phosphorylation. Then, I'll introduce you to the Fostak technology and how it differs from the conventional detection methods. Next, we will take you through the experimental workflow step by step. And we will also be highlighting key important points around optimization, troubleshooting, and comparative advantages. Finally, we will explore the real-world applications. So you guys must already know what is translational, but we'll quickly revise it. So translation is a process by which ribosomes synthesize protein using mRNA as the template. So after that, a polypeptide chain is formed, but it is not actually functionally active. So it undergoes another processing, which is our post-translation modifications. So what are PTMs? PTMs are actually chemical changes that occur to a protein after it has been translated. And these modifications are actually important for a protein to enable them to be functionally active, regulate their localization, stability, and interaction with the other proteins. These changes are reversible like phosphorylation, acetylation, and irreversible like proteolytic cleavage. So quickly just think of a disease model and check if any PMT is playing a regulatory role in it. Now let's look at the diversity of PTMs. So some of the major common PTMs are phosphorylation, acetylation, methylation, glycosylation, and ubiquitination, which have each having a distinct biological impact. Enzymes like kinases, phosphatases, transferases, and ligases actually regulate these modifications. Now, why are we actually just talking about protein phosphorylation? Protein phosphorylation is actually the most studied PTMs, which actually adds an amino group to the amino acid residues like serine, threonine, and tyrosine. They are catalyzed by the kinases and reversed by the phosphatases. And actually, aberrant phosphorylation of protein phosphorylation is actually linked to cancer, diabetes, neurodegenerative disorders, and inflammatory disorders, thus making it a valuable tool for as biomarker and therapeutic targets. So some of you might also have faced difficulties in detecting phosphorylation levels. So despite its important, phosphorylation is actually hard to detect because of its transient nature, low abundance, and actually potential site multiplicity. And also the low loss of samples during handling adds actually another hurdle. So this is where our Fostak plays an important role. So Fostak is a compound which binds to your phosphate group using divalent metal ions, commonly zinc and manganese ion, and which actually when they are included in the polyacrylamide gel, they form Fostak actually forms a complex with your divalent metal ion and binds specifically to your phosphate residues on amino acids. So what is the principle behind Fostak SDS page? Actually, during Fostak SDS page, the reagent is incorporated into your polyacrylamide gel along with your divalent metal ions like manganese or zinc ion, and when your gel has been polymerized and your samples have been loaded and electrophoresis is initiated, the gel after the polymerization, the gel actually is run. The protein will migrate through the gel according to the phosphorylation levels, because the Fostak metal complex selectively binds to your phosphorylated residues on amino acid. And as a result, the phosphorylation states can be resolved as separate bands, allowing easy visualization of your phosphorylated patterns. When we are using manganese phosphate tag, the SDS page adopts the typical Lamelli SDS page method and is a very simple procedure. But when we are working with zinc phosphate ions, which uses neutral bis-tris SDS page system, because it has the highest phosphoric acid capturing ability at the neutral pH. So how do we prepare the sample for this? Now I will be explaining you the overflow of the experiment. So for that, we do trichloroacetic acid precipitation. We add 1% of deoxycholate to the protein sample so that this can promote your protein aggregation. After that, we vortex the sample and then we add the 20% of your trichloroacetic acid to precipitate the sample. Then again we vortex it and then we do the centrifugation for 10 minutes and 4 degrees Celsius. Then we will remove the supernatant very carefully and add 500 microliter of your cold acetone. This will actually help you to remove the residual contaminants. Then again, we will repeat the centrifugation steps. And after that, we will dry the pallet and then we will add a SDS page sample buffer. Your SDS sample buffer will be made like you make in your conventional SDS page. After that, we boil the sample or we do sonication. Now, this slide actually outlines the recipe of preparation of your separating gel with 6% of acrylamide and 20 micromolar of phosphate acrylamide. This is for actually manganese phosphate when we are using manganese phosphate. So this gel mixture contains your separating buffer, acrylamide stock solution, water, and then we add the 5 micromolar of millimolar of phosphate acrylamide and 10 millimolar of your manganese chloride. And then 10% APS for polymerization and timid as the catalyst is added. It is very important to optimize and check the polyacrylamide, your acrylamide concentrations and also your divalent metal ions reagent before making your gel according to your molecular weight of your target protein. Now, how do we prepare the separating gel? For separating gel, we add the components in the following order. We first add the separation buffer, then we add our acrylamide stock solution, and then actually we add our phosphate acrylamide solution, and then we add our divalent metal ion reagents. After that, you know that timid and APS is added to polymerize the gel, and then we actually mix that very gently to avoid the bubbles. Then we will add our separating gel into the gel cassette and allow it to polymerize for at least 30 to 1 hour. Now the preparation of the stacking gel and the further process is similar to your conventional method. For stacking buffer, we will be adding your stacking gel buffer, acrylamide solution, timid and APS, and then we will mix it and to avoid any bubbles. After your separation gel has been polymerized, carefully add your stacking gel, and we will insert the comb. So after that, we will allow it to polymerize for at least 30 to 1 hour, and after it is polymerized, we will remove the comb, load the sample, and run the SDS page. So I just took you over the experimental workflow. Now I will be talking about the key experimental controls that are actually very important to ensure reliable result. So for that, we use dephosphorylated samples using lambda phosphatase, which actually verifies if the observed band shifts were due to phosphorylation. For that, we will actually treat the samples with lambda phosphatase. It is an enzyme which removes phosphate groups. So if your band disappears after the treatment, it confirms that your band shifts were actually due to phosphorylation event. Also, by incorporating known phosphorylated proteins like casein, ERK1 and 2, they are well characterized phosphorylated proteins. So including them in your experiment validates if your phosphate system is actually working properly. And also we can perform dual blots with phosphospecific and pan antibodies. So this will help distinguish between the total proteins and your phosphorylated proteins, because the phosphospecific antibodies will only detect your phosphorylated forms of protein, and your pan antibodies will detect all the forms of protein. So optimization is actually also very important when you are making the gel. and that is done according to the based on the size of your target protein. So when making the gel, we have to keep in mind that we optimize the concentration of our acrylamide. So when your target size of your target protein is smaller, we use high percentages of gel, around 10 to 12.5%. And when you are using larger proteins, more than 60 kilodalton, then we use lower concentration of polyacrylamide gel, around 60 kilo. So we just talked about the optimization of the concentration of the acrylamide gel, but now the optimization of Fostag acrylamide is also very important. We actually usually start with 20 micromolar, and then we actually increase the concentration according to how well our bands have separated. So the typical concentration ranges from 20 to 100 micromolar. Also keep in mind, increasing the concentration might lead to more good separation clarity, but it can also reduce your protein mobility. Finally, strive to balance between the separation and migration rate, so to avoid excess running time. For that, actually, optimization of your acrylamide is very, very important. Now, you must have actually encountered a lot of issues even while running your conventional SDS page. So we'll just quickly go over the common issues that we encountered, and also I'll just tell you the corrective actions that you can actually take to correct them. So first problem is distortion of bands. So when your sample, this happens when your sample is contaminated with chelating agents like EDTA, surfactants, or inorganic salts. So if that happens, you can actually avoid using pure pre-stain markers and add 1 millimolar of your manganese chloride or zinc chloride to your samples. Also, as I first told you, during sample preparation, always precipitate it by TCA. Next, so when your sample is viscous, you should boil it thoroughly for at least 10 minutes. And this happens actually because of the overconfluent cells. So this can be actually, if the viscosity still persists after boiling, you have to re-prepare your samples, because dilution alone will not resolve the problem. Now, if your sample is acidic, if your color of the sample changes to yellow after adding the loading buffer, this means that your sample is acidic. So to correct that, you should add 1 molar of tris to your samples to bring the pH to slightly neutral or basic. And one more problem is that blank occurs because of the blank lanes or the interlane concentration gradients. This can be actually corrected by adding 1x of sample buffer to the empty lanes to eliminate the interlane concentration gradients. Now, these are two more problems that are faced during SDS page, that is smearing of bands and low resolution. So smearing of band actually happens when the temperature is too high. So you should always keep in mind to perform the electrophoresis under the condition of a low current and extended runtime. Or you can conduct your experiment in a low temperature room, so that your gel is cool and the protein migrates through your gel very uniformly. Another problem is mobility of the protein is too high. So adjust your concentration of the gel so that the target protein is layered on the upper level half of the gel. And low resolution is also a problem, which actually happens when your concentration of your acrylamide and Fostag acrylamide are not optimal. So as we talked about earlier, it is very important to optimize the concentration of both acrylamide and Fostag acrylamide. So one more problem that we face is bad transfer to the membrane. And this happens when the zinc and manganese are not fully eliminated. So for that, extend the treatment of EDTA. We are very sorry. Just wait for a second. I guess there's some problem. So bad transfer to the memory is also a problem. So for that, actually, it happens when your manganese chloride or zinc chloride is not fully eliminated. For that, you can increase the duration of treatment with EDTA, which increases the number of exchanges of EDTA containing buffer. And also, you can shake the while prepare. You can shake the samples so that it can remove the ions. Another problem for bad transfer is that your gel can be too rigid. So for that, to eliminate that, you can decrease the concentration of methanol in the transfer buffer. And when you are using zinc phosphate, and when the concentration of zinc phosphate is high, around 100 micromolar, always remember to add 0.5 to 2% of EDTA containing SDS to your EDTA containing transfer buffer. So we just went through the overflow, the optimization, and troubleshooting. Now, what are the advantages of FOSTAG over conventional SDS page, and why we should use FOSTAG SDS page? This is because I've already told you that it will separate your phosphorylated and non-phosphorylated protein forms based on the phosphate binding, and not only rely on the molecular weight. And in this, there's no use of antibody, and as you already know that antibodies are very costly, so like we use in Western blotting. And then it is a more rapid and fast and cost-effective method for protein phosphorylation screening, and which can work without the use of your antibodies. And also, it is fully compatible with your other downstream applications like Western blotting, mass spectrometry, and two-dimensional electrophoresis. Now, what are the key applications? Why this FOSTAG SDS page is very important? So protein, I have already told you that it can detect your non-phosphorylated proteins from phosphorylated proteins, but it is also used in assessment of kinase and phosphatase activity. And another application is that it can actually use for detection of site-directed mutations or other pharmacological events. It is also used in drug screening to assess the effects of inhibitors, and also in cell signaling pathways to track dynamic changes in the phosphorylation levels. So these are some of the products offered by Vaco, Fujifilm Vaco, tailored for different experimental conditions. We have FOSTAG acrylamide gel, which allows you to separate the phosphorylated proteins from non-phosphorylated proteins. We also have FOSTAG biotin, which actually serves as an alternate to your antibodies which you use in Western blotting. For purification purposes, we have FOSTAG agarose and FOSTAG tips to actually purify phosphorylated peptides. And then we also have FOSTAG mass analytical kit, which is actually used in analysis in MALDI-TOF or mass spectrometry analysis to improve the detection sensitivity of your phosphorylated molecules. Now, FOSTAG is designed with stability and flexibility. So we use it with two metal ions, zinc and manganese. When you are using zinc, it will actually increase your high resolution separation. But if you have to do semi-dry transfer, which is possible with actually zinc FOSTAG, even with high concentrations of FOSTAG. And for coming to storage condition, you should always keep it in 2 to 10 degrees Celsius, protected from the light. And actually, if you keep it in the proper condition, its shelf life is actually up to 2 years. Now, this table actually compares the three techniques, FOSTAG SDS page versus your Western blot and versus your mass spectrometry. So coming to the cost, FOSTAG is actually very cost effective because we don't have to use antibodies, and you already know that for Western blot we have to actually use customized antibodies, and which is very costly. So the time required for SDS page is 2 to 3 hours, which is actually comparable to the conventional SDS page, but we don't have to do the Western blotting and other processes. We can just do CBB staining after that to check the phosphorylation levels. Other than that, clarity of result, actually FOSTAG SDS page gives very good distinct band shifts. And when you are doing Western blotting, it gives actually variable results which depends on the quality of your antibody. And when we are talking about mass spectrometry, it actually gives excellent site-specific resolution, but you know that it is very expensive because of the advanced equipments that we use in that. So these are some citations from renowned scientists who have successfully used phosphates, and there are other scientists also which are not listed here. So now we have actually come an end to our presentation. Thank you for your valuable time, and now you are open to ask any question or doubts that you have. You can just open your mic and ask the questions. I hope the session was clear to you. If you have any questions, you can ask now. So thank you so much for attending the webinar. If you have any requirement, you can mail to our commercial team and we will get in touch with you. Your voice is not audible.
Compatible with any block chloride transfer.
Yeah, actually, you can also use zinc chloride as well. I told you in the presentation that zinc chloride, actually using zinc chloride gives you high resolution separation. But actually using manganese chloride is a simple procedure, and it is actually, it is made actually using the normal Lamelli SDS page method. And it is actually when you want to do the semi-dry transfer, you can use manganese chloride phosphate it is actually possible with also with the high concentration of phosphate. So two metal ions are available, that is manganese chloride and zinc chloride. These two are compatible with the phosphate SDS page. Any other questions? We actually cannot use the protein ladder, but you can do mass spectrometry for detection of different levels of site levels. But actually you cannot use the protein ladder because it will interfere with your protein. Yeah, I got one question that when we are using phosphate but we are unable to transfer the proteins, I told you that there are a lot of reasons for that. So for bad transfer, you can actually you extend the duration of the treatment of EDTA and increase the number of buffer exchanges by EDTA containing buffers. You can shake your samples during treatment with EDTA and just check if that your gel is not too rigid. And if that is the case, then you can decrease the concentration of methanol in your transfer buffer. And if you are using zinc phosphate, high concentration of zinc phosphate, for example, 100 micromolar, so always add 0.5 to 2% of SGS to your EDTA containing buffers. We actually do hands-on in our lab, so if anybody wants to do hands-on, you can provide us the protein and we can do hands-on for you. Actually, you can use either of them, zinc metal ion or manganese ion. As I've already told you, if you want to go for semi-dry transfer, then you should use manganese ion. Otherwise, and actually manganese ion is when working with manganese divalent ion, it is a simple procedure and it adopts your simple Lamelli SDS page method. But you can use both of them. And if you have done all the steps and still you are not able to achieve the transfer, you should recheck and optimize all the, just I've told you that you should optimize your gel according to the size of your target molecule. So if you are using proteins whose weight is more than 60 kilodalton, then use 6% of the gel. And if your protein size is from 40 to 60, you should use 8% of gel. And for smaller proteins like less than 20, you should use 12.5% of gel. And also, when you are checking of the concentration of Fostak acrylamide is also very important. You should actually always start with 20 micromolar and then check if your bands are separated properly, and then increase the concentration of your Fostak polyacrylamide. Because increasing the concentration will actually increase the separation quality, but it can also reduce the protein mobility. So if you are using tricine based SDS page but the gel was not solidifying after adding the Fosdag reagent, please check if you have correctly added all the components, your APS and timid in the right amount. If actually everything was added in the right amount, you should actually rerun the samples, or we also actually do hands-on. You can provide us your sample and we will do the hands-on for you. No, you have to do mass spectrometry only if you have to detect the phosphorylation sites. You can actually separate the non-phosphorylated and phosphorylated proteins, and then you can visualize them by CBB staining or fluorescence staining. But if you have to detect the phosphorylation sites, then you have to go for mass spectrometry and Western blotting. So if your protein is 8.6 kilodalton, so you should actually use higher percentages of your gel. You can use 10 to 12%, 12.5% of acrylamide gel. Yes, for providing of hands-on training, you can actually mail to our commercial team and we can get back to you for that. Yes, mass spectrometry can be done after running FOSTEC SDS page. It is fully compatible with your other downstream applications. If you can't see any shift, that can be due to a lot of reasons, because you must not be using the optimal concentration of your acrylamide and polyacrylamide gel. So it is very important to actually optimize the gel before running the SDS page. So yeah, we will be providing you with the contact information. We have already provided you the contact information on the chat box. You can check it from there. Okay, thank you so much. If you have any other inquiries, you can actually connect with us on the mail ID that we have already added in the in-call messages. So if you have any inquiries, you can mail us on that ID. Thank you so much, and I'm very grateful to have you all here.